Glad to have you back. Now, Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, NECA, on Tuesday raised the alarm that the federal and state governments are killing businesses in the country with multiple taxes.
Operators of small and medium enterprises say they spend an average of 20% of their earnings on tax payment monthly, a situation they say is unfavorable to the growth and expansion of their businesses.
Well, there are numerous types of tax ranging from company income tax paid by resident and non-resident companies incorporated in Nigeria. There is value-added tax paid by any person or corporate sole organization who consumes or buys taxable products or services, and then personal income tax paid by salary earners, and lots more.
Now, in addition to all of those, business owners still have to pay tax to state and local governments where their businesses are domiciled.
Well, in the studio with us is a tax administrator, Bola Shodipo. Good morning to you, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay,
nice
first off, before we go into the main topic, are Nigerians paying too many taxes? So there's so many, and they're so high.
Well, if you say Nigerians are paying too many, good morning once again, and good morning viewers. Going straight to the business, if you say Nigerians are paying too many taxes and too high, then you ask the question, why then is Nigeria still saying tax to GDP ratio is 6%? So where's the money? There's a gap somewhere. There is a disconnect somewhere. Now, collection of taxes may have been a burden on some set of people, but that Nigerians, in a sweeping statement, are paying too many taxes and too high would not be totally correct. But those who fall under the burden of payment, maybe, as we go on in the program, maybe some of them are being hit too hard. We will see when your questions come.
Okay.
Okay, some of them might be hit too hard. We also know that a lot of people are not paying taxes. There's tax evasion here and there. And in fact, with the revelation recently where they said that majority of those paying taxes are just in Lagos, and all of those breakdown they gave, it shows to a great extent that a lot of Nigerians are not paying taxes. Who do we hold responsible for not paying taxes? The people who refuse to pay, or the government that is supposed to regulate and ensure that we bring more people into the tax net?
Everyone.
Oh, okay.
All the parties concerned. You know, in a government, there's something they call the social contract. Once you vote in a government into power, as citizens, your responsibility is to support that government to succeed. And the way you support the government is to ensure you contribute to the commonwealth, which is the tax payment, and ensure you put the fund in the common pot such that the government that you have trusted with a mandate will use it to your benefit. So if you do not pay that money or your taxes into that commonwealth, you have incapacitated the government. Now, on the side, that's on the side of the citizen, and quite a lot of citizens don't do it, especially the high net worth individuals. Less than 15% of them pay taxes.
True.
Like I said earlier, some other times that we spoke, the tax guru now, they're working on that, and those are things you see in terms of VATs, automatic exchange of information and things like that. So they're going to get there. And I'm pretty sure, because I was in Abuja last week when they had a conference, that you will see some people being prosecuted seriously now, but more of them immediately after the expiry date of the VAT, the voluntary asset income, March 38. Anytime from April, you will see a lot of people being prosecuted. So there are plans to bring them into the tax net. That's not to say that nothing has been done so far. A lot of people are already embracing the VAT. Even beyond that, they also have had means of bringing in so much more people into the tax net beyond what they have met in the past. So the government is doing that on their own. Government needs to do more so that they can bring more of the people into the tax net. Nobody pays tax with a smile. So you must have a way of holding them and connecting them to tax payments.
Okay. So now the DG of NECA raised an alarm saying that there is the problem of duplication of consumption taxes on them, especially because they pay VAT to the federal government, but then states And the DG mentioned Kano State government specifically demanding for consumption taxes. And he said that they are one and the same, that value-added tax at the federal level is the same as consumption tax at the state level.
Well, you can say that, and it's to a large extent correct to say that much. But let me give you the genesis of the problem using Lagos State as a case study. You know, we have what they call the hotel occupancy and consumption tax in Lagos, which is synonymous to the sale tax. And, of course, another name for value-added tax. People in Lagos who are in the hospitality business, they pay the hotel occupancy and consumption tax. They are not paying just because they feel like paying or they love to pay. It was a battle. We went as far as to the level of Supreme Court. We got a judgment. See, all of these are as a result of the aberration in the kind of federalism we're practicing. It brings us back to fiscal federalism. If you remember how all of this came into being, from the 80s, when you had the military and revenues were dwindling and the states needed to survive, they weren't getting enough from the federation account, which they likely depended on either two. Everybody went on the streets, got consultants, got agents to go and be collecting taxes everywhere. There were harassment, recklessness, you know, all over the place. People would put nails on irons and put it on the road to get you to pay. You work in an organization, your parking lot, you get in there in the morning, somebody is saying nobody can park here, or they come to get a wrecker to come and tow all the vehicles away. So there were a lot of funny practices. So everyone was like, how do I get my own money? Now, Lagos State at that time said, look, larger percentage of businesses in Nigeria is carried on. This is the economic capital of the country. About 60% of what you claim to be the GDP of Nigeria comes from Lagos State. So why would you collect all those monies from the port, on the road, from the companies, from the industries, and not give me my share? And you take it to Abuja and share to everybody, and then you use a Kano State that has a larger population than me to take more of what I have generated. It's not going to happen. My people also need services. They need all of these. They're the one working for it. So Lagos State domesticated the sales tax, and the federal government challenged it from the High Court to the appellate level and to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court gave judgment to Lagos State because there were valid arguments that were made in favor of why we should collect the sales tax. And that is why we are here today. But ordinarily, if we were practicing what is the right fiscal federalism, in other words, let their locations control what is within your location, put whatever that you need to put in the, we are all federating units into the center, put into the center, take your own percentage. There will never have been anything like that. Indeed, the federal may not even have any need for any VAT because what they need to collect will go from the unit as against the inverse of what we are practicing as of today. Again, is another clamor for restructuring. And my own definition of restructuring is what I have given to you. Fiscal federalism. Give more authority to the locations or geographical demographics or the units that make up, and whatever they control, they let them control it, let them deal with it.
Now, in the incident you just told us about getting to the Supreme Court, after the judgment was pronounced in favor of Lagos State, was there any avenue where there can be a harmony between the VAT and the consumption tax by the state government and the federal government on the other hand, to see how the burden on the people who are going to pay it is reduced?
Well, exactly the platform I have just given to you. The only way now, because Lagos State has authority to do what they are doing, and I'm sure whatever Kano is doing is taking a cue from what has gone, because they will lay, the presidents, they will lay claim to the precedents that it has happened in another state. So the only way to do it is what the federal government is doing via the Ministry of Finance and Federal Inland Revenue Service, that they have formed a tax reform committee that have made recommendations to NECA, National Economic Council, who will take charge and make recommendations to Federal Executive Council on issues bordering on double or multiple taxation. And then they find a way to harmonize all of these things, because clearly, in terms of legal position, there is a judgment of the highest level of the court to back it up.
But then the DG of NECA, Oshinawa, also cited a Supreme Court judgment saying that it's against our laws, that this is against our laws, and he cited the case of the Attorney General of Ogun State versus Abe Ragba and others, that the Supreme Court was saying that it was wrong for that to be implemented, for VAT to be collected at the federal level, and then for state to demand the same as consumption
Abe Ragba
tax.
is not a state. I'm clear on the case that I have given to you.
The Attorney General of Ogun State.
No, see what I have said to you. There is a case that went as far as the Supreme Court in Lagos State, and the Supreme Court gave judgment to the effect that the state has the power to go on with the hotel occupancy and consumption tax. And that case still subsists today. The Supreme Court has not reversed itself. So Abe Ragba and Ogun State can be doing whatever I don't know about that, but the one I know of and the premise upon which Lagos is collecting is what I have told you. And there is no court that is higher than the Supreme Court in the land, and that's why it's called Supreme.
It was the same Supreme Court that ruled in this case. So that was why I wanted to ask that question. So where does that leave? Because like I said earlier, like you said, there is judicial precedence now, and maybe that is what the Kano State government is trying to capitalize on.
Yes.
But then the federal government, the responsibility of getting VAT, the case of the clamor for reducing multiple taxation, that's another problem, which airlines talked about earlier, complained bitterly about earlier.
Yes.
So how these are even expended is even another issue entirely.
Yes.
You collect all this money, but they are not even translating into anything in the country.
Well, that would be a topic for another day. You know, the truth of the matter, Azizat, the truth of the matter is that you have no, I do not want to use the word right. You cannot withhold payment of your taxes or complain about it until another 4 years. If the government is not using your taxes right, then you take your mandate at the end of the 4th year and vote them out. That's the only thing you can do. Once you vote in a government, you can't say they are not using my taxes, they are not expending it right, so I'm withholding. It's a compulsory charge on you. It's
an obligation.
It's an obligation. It's statutory. So that's another argument. But the compelling the reason why we need to talk about this matter is that it's neither here nor there. Both of us, either the federal, the country, or the citizens, we are all being shortchanged if we do not find a solution to it. And that's the reason why you will find out that the cost of doing business will keep going high, and then businesses will keep relocating from one state to the other, and when there are no states to relocate to, they move out of the country to another country. So that's the compelling reason. And if you don't get it right, the issue of solving the problem of unemployment will be very difficult. Because, I mean, you can't say that NECA doesn't have a case. Even if legally or by judicial pronouncements, the state has the right to do it. But is it to the good of everyone concerned? I will say no. They must find a way to harmonize everything such that the cost of doing business does not rise too high. If you break down, when they said World Bank released October 30th last month, that we moved 24 steps forward from 169 to 145 out of 190 countries. We were laughing and happy, and rightly. But look into it, the components, what part of it was really responsible? The place we moved highest, funnily, was the access to credit. In terms of tax reforms, which was about 26 points that we moved from access to credit. If you look into the breakdown, on the issue of tax reforms, we only moved about 2.65.
And then it has multiplier effect.
Oh yeah, serious multiplier effect. Serious one. Because, I mean, if you sensitize even your balance sheet, your cash flow, your profitability of any organization, how can you do a 20% sensitivity analysis and say that's plus or minus? That's too high. You know, so if a company says they are paying 20% every month on taxes, you want to run them, what is the margin they are making? Indeed, any company that makes a 15% margin in this current economy that we are, you say they are doing very well. because things are very tight. Margins are thinning out. So a lot of taxes coming in. When you say multiple, you know, you're talking about numerous, various. You know, I mean, you want to kill them? So and that's why it's of concern to the authorities. They are really looking at it, but the problem is not just located with the authorities. It's located with the authorities, the companies, and the state governments.
Now, when they talk, the tax amnesty that the government is giving out until sometime next year, with this tax reform not really being in place, how effective would it be if there is no tax reform in true terms to handle some of these multiple taxations we're talking about?
No. There are blue papers already on tax reforms. Okay. A committee was set up, and I think that committee was headed by a very brilliant commercial lawyer, Professor Abiola Sani. I think they have submitted their report up to the level of beyond even the Ministry of Finance. Now I think is with NEC, National Economic Council, which is going to federal. So a reform is going on. They are looking at all of this, you know. But that reform, you know, is to ensure that there is equity in taxation. Okay. The issue of uncertainty, the issue of harassment, the issue of somebody just going out, or one government, you know, laying the same level of tax that another layer of government or tier of government has laid, all those ones are removed. But the VADE is very different. You know, approach of VADE is you have no right to say you won't pay tax if you have made an income, a gain, or a profit in a venture. You have no right. So the VADE is to pursue you, give you a ground to come in and say, hey, I have sinned, but I don't want to sin anymore, I'm coming in. And if you do not, thereafter they catch up on you.
But some are sinning even further right now.
Oh yeah, of course.
The minister already announced that it's those that are coming forward, some of those coming forward are even under-declaring their profits.
Well,
but there's a declaration.
Well, let me be honest with you.
Holistic.
Let me be honest with you. I think the minister is quick to talk in this matter. Let everybody first come in. All you need is the data. Let them come in, let them pay their taxes. It's called self-assessment. And you have promised that there will not be no investigation, no penalty, no interest, all of that. Let them come in, let them pay. And you have said it is an amnesty. Leave it like that. Thereafter, you have their data. The following year you go in, and then you check the books. You didn't say you will not check going forward. Sure. And then if they have underpaid, you will see. If they start paying the correct one thereafter. But the way she has said it now may be a disincentive to some people to go in there, and that's the kind of things we have going on in this country.
All right, we still hear that the mode of collecting taxes, Lagos, the way Lagos is doing it, I understand, is really nice. I think Lagos and few other states are collecting taxes in ways that is transparent.
Lagos is a model case, really.
But there are some states that tax officers still go collect monies, you know, directly from the people and all of that. Talk to us about that. How does that impact on the system itself?
No, see, any state that still does that now, then the Board of Internal Revenue of that state is not working. Because even CBN has said it that we're operating a cashless environment. And beyond that, we have seen the kind of loopholes that's attached to taxpayers, tax authorities and agents going to collect cash from people. No, assess them, let them go and pay into a proper account, which is like the TSA account of the federal government. They have a dedicated account. Pay through the bank, do whatever. I mean, anything over and above 2,000 naira or 1,000 naira, you should not collect in cash at all. At all. So if there is any state government that still allows the Board of Inland Revenue to collect taxes by agents, cash, and things like that, then even that state government should be questioned. That means they have allowed for leakages on their own. It's a matter of common sense.
Okay. Well, Bola Shodipo, Tax Administrator, thank you so much for giving us some insight into all this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.